Hey, what's up, Logic fans? Welcome to our fifth and final video on section 4.9, and it's just taking some time to go through as many examples as we're going through to give you that confidence, okay? But we left off on the last video, 4.9d, talking about these two, and we translated them, and I want to evaluate whether they're true or false on this same domain. So let's imagine O without the leading negation. This says everything is loved by at least one thing. Well, A is loved by at least one thing itself. And B, is B loved by at least one thing? Well, it's not loved by A. Is B loved by itself? No. So everything is loved by at least one thing turns out to be false on this domain. And therefore, it's not the case that everything is loved by at least one thing turns out to be true on this domain. Let's go ahead and try this guy right here. This says everything is loved by something, at least one thing is loved by everything. So is A loved by everything? Yep, and therefore at least one thing is loved by everything. So this turns out to be true. When we add back in the leading negation, it turns out to be false on this domain. Okay. All right, so hopefully that helps. Let me give you a couple more here just for practice. So let's do some ones where you've got, one quantifier. It's the same ones on this domain. So translate each of these into ordinary English and tell me whether they're true or false on this particular domain. Pause now. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to pause and work these out, all right? But the first one says everything loves itself. Well, does that hold for both A and B? That's everything in our domain, A and B. So A loves itself, but it doesn't. Does B love itself? No. So this sentence turns out to be false on this particular domain, okay? Now, if you had this here, since without it, it's false, with this, it's true, okay? All right, so everything is such that it does not love itself. Well, A is not that way. B is, but A is not, and it has to hold for everything. So this statement turns out to be false on this particular domain, and translated it says everything does not love itself. Okay? Something like that. In this particular case, in ordinary English, this says something, at least one thing in our domain, either A or B. Something loves itself. And as we see, that's true to say on that domain. Now, what about in this case? This says something does not love itself. And that's absolutely true. Okay, so both C and D are true on this particular domain. All right, let's look at what's going to look like the most confusing, crazy case, but I'm going to show you a trick for being able to evaluate them. What happens if we start doing crazy sentences where we have this negation not just here or out here in the nice places, but what if we have them in these crazy places and we have multiple of them going on? Look at this horrible mess. Look at this ugly thing, all right? What does this sentence mean in ordinary English, all right? These look like super crazy and hard and impossible, right? Wrong. There's a trick you can use for doing these. Basically, you can reduce them to any of the cases that we just handled. All right, and I want to show you how to do this. So we talked about how to convert from the existential quantifier to the universal quantifier. Make sure you review that, okay, if you need to. But let's go ahead and do this one together, and I'll show you what I mean, okay? So let's start with this sentence, and then basically what we're going to do is we're going to convert it. So one thing we can do is we can take this negation and we can move it out here, or we can move it in here. Let's take the case where we move it to the inside first, okay? So let's go ahead and do it this way. If I take this negation, okay, and I move it over here to the right, okay, I get this expression where this all of a sudden turns into an existential quantifier. So, whoops. So, one way I can think about this sentence with this negation in this weird, awkward place is by thinking about it as actually it's just this sentence. And we've already evaluated this one on this domain on the previous page, right, on the previous videos. So you can just translate these either way. Now, you could have moved it to the left side also, let's suppose we'd moved it left instead of right. Well, I'll put it over here. Okay, if we had, I'll show you what I mean. Let's suppose we had taken this guy and moved it out here instead. Well, you would take that, move it there, and change this to the existential quantifier. So it would look like this. Okay? And that would absolutely, these are logically equivalent. Okay? And so you could just evaluate this one. Now this one's particularly easy to evaluate because first you can evaluate this, and then if that's true, then this is false. And if this is false, then this is true. Right? So with these cases, what I highly recommend doing first is sort of reducing it to using your change of quantifier rule to a simpler sentence to understand. All right. So you go ahead and try it now. Try it with B. All right. Try it with B. Let's go ahead and do B here. So go ahead with B here and reduce this to a simpler expression to evaluate, and then tell me whether it's true or false on this particular domain. Okay, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to move it over here, which sets up something really nice. Okay, whoops. Let's change this to the existential, right? Which looks like that. And then, of course, I can double negate this. So this sentence, which is horrible and nasty looking, is really just this sentence, which says everything loves at least one thing. Well, A loves at least one thing. B loves at least one thing, so this sentence is true on this particular domain. Okay, try C now. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to move it out here, which is going to double negate it. And of course, this ended up switching to an existential quantifier when we did that. So this sentence and this sentence are logically equivalent, so I'm just going to evaluate this one. This says at least one thing loves everything. Does A love everything? Nope. Does B love everything? Nope. Therefore, this sentence is false, and hence this sentence is false. Okay? Because they're logically equivalent, so they have to have the same truth value. All right? Go ahead and try D. Okay, again, you can move everything to the right or everything to the left. It won't matter. In this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move everything over. Okay, so first I'm going to take this negation and I'm going to put it over here. So this is going to become the universal quantifier. All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double negate that out. Okay? So what we have is this particular sentence. And I'm going to imagine this sentence without this leading negation. Without the leading negation, this says something loves everything. Does A love everything? Nope. Does B love everything? Nope. So something loves everything is false. Therefore, with the leading negation, the sentence is true. So this sentence is in fact true. Okay? Go ahead and try E. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this and I can move it to the outside or I can move it to the inside. Let's move it to the outside. All right, then I can just use this other handy dandy trick where I ignore the leading negation. So that's a nice feature of this. Without the leading negation, it says everything is loved by at least one thing. Well, A is, and so is B. Oh wait, pardon me. No, A is loved by at least one thing. It's loved by A. Is B loved by at least one thing? No and no. So without the leading negation, the sentence is false, okay? And with the leading negation, it's therefore true. So this sentence is in fact true, okay, on this domain. Try F. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just take this guy and I'll move it over here. Okay, so we're going to switch the quantifiers and then I'm going to double negate. Nice and easy. Picture this without the leading negation. This says everything loves everything. That's false. So with the leading negation, it's true. And so this sentence is in fact true on this particular domain. Okay, so that's the really nice trick for all of this. Okay, let's just keep doing them. Again, lots and lots of practice, plenty of practice problems in the text for you to get these down on your own. Let's try this one, G. If you haven't tried it already, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to move it out here, which gives me that. This switches to the universal quantifier, and double negating, I'm left with this. We took that one out and moved it over. Okay, so everything loves everything. Is that true or is that false? Well, that's false on this particular domain. It's not the case that everything loves everything. So this sentence is in fact false. Okay, let's go ahead and try H together. Hopefully by now you've really got the pattern down. All right. So what I'll do is I'll just move this guy out here. Changing quantifiers, right? And then double negating. Okay, something loves something. That turns out to be true. So this sentence is true on this particular domain, right? Last one, we'll call it a day. All right, this is I right here. Let's try this one together. Got this pesky negation in place. You can also just try to evaluate it directly if you want, but I find it easier and less intimidating to move it. I'm going to move it to the left. Okay, so I'm going to move it here. This is going to become the universal. I'm going to ignore this for a second. This says everything is loved by everything, which is not true. So with the leading negation, this does turn out to be true, and therefore this sentence is true on this particular domain. Okay, so I hope those techniques help you, and all of the practice helps you gain some confidence with it. Make sure you're doing the problems. That's going to be the best way to help yourself learn all this material. And we'll be pressing on. All right, Logic fans, catch you on the next videos.